Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends. So welcome to today's show. Oh my goodness. Well, if life isn't crazy and, and you're still here and you're listening, welcome. It's been a wild ride for almost all of us. So if you've been listening to the show, you know that I'm an intuitive consultant by trade, was born extremely psychic. And, this time of living is a little insane, right? What's going on the planet. So right now we are entering and have entered Mercury retrograde. So I was traveling and travel got a little wonky, but here's what it is. And we're going to talk about a topic today that I think will benefit and interest most of you. And so in my travels, there were delays, there were a lot of unknowns. And, I'm sitting in the airport and watching all of these people get upset and rattled because why? What they thought was going to happen didn't happen. So they had anticipated an outcome that wasn't occurring and it wasn't occurring on their timeline. And so they were getting upset and aggravated and rattled and frustrated and all these things. And I sat in the airport and I was like thinking to myself and watching and witnessing all these people. And I was like, wow, it's really easy to get upset with the rest of the crowd. It's really easy to go with the dominant energy in the room. And at the time at the airport, the dominant energy was "Roar." And I'd been in several different airports and it was the same in every one. And I sat there and I was like, you know what? I don't think I need to join in that energy because that energy isn't going to benefit what I want to create on the planet. It isn't going to benefit my future. It's not going to benefit my present moment. It's not going to benefit my spirit, my physical energy. It just wasn't going to benefit anything. And it's really easy to get caught up in the moment when our environment is not as we had planned, when things kind of go off of course. And so, what I wanted to talk about today is this idea of appreciating and anticipating. So, if you want a bigger life, if you want more joy, if you want more abundance, right? It's not just the physical manifestation of money, it's the emotional sensation of having an abundant life. And so, if you had all the zeros you want in your bank account, but your health wasn't good, but your relationships weren't good, but your personal energy wasn't good, you wouldn't really feel abundant, right? True abundance isn't just about a number in your bank account, right? True abundance is about this idea of living fully. And I think every single one of us at our core, we didn't come here on planet Earth in a physical body to suffer. And yet it's part of the process. We all go through our own versions of suffering. And yet what we can do in the process of becoming the best, most fantastic, most alive version of ourselves, right, is to kind of go with the flow. And some of you might go, oh, that's so easy, or oh, that's so hard. But here's the deal is going with the flow means that you pay attention to how you feel, right, to your emotional undercurrent more than you pay attention to what's happening in the outside world. And when we focus on what's happening in the outside world, what happens? We get upset, we get frustrated, we get sad, we get disappointed, we get aggravated, right? We feel like, oh, it's so unfair. And this could be, the political climate, the environmental climate, the disruptions that's happening all over the world. And it's easy to get distracted by all the things that we don't want to see happening. But here's what we all can do individually and as a collective to shift both our internal energies as well as begin to shift what we see happening on the planet. We can't change anybody, but we can focus on changing ourselves. And so the two energies that I think aren't really talked about enough are appreciation and anticipation. So, appreciation is actually a higher vibration than gratitude. Most of us are taught to be grateful, but grateful can sometimes be stagnant, right? Whereas appreciation is sort of an ongoing action, an ongoing verb, an ongoing presence that begins to unfold. And so, if ever you want to create more abundance in your life, that means more abundant health, more abundant relationships, more abundant finances, more abundant in your business or in your personal life, where you're taking time for yourself, where you're enjoying walks on the beach, where, I came to Nantucket and it's been raining. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to appreciate the weather is different because it's hot in Aspen, right? And so every little moment, there is an opportunity for us to shift our perspective, not from focusing on what's happening, but focusing on what we can sort of appreciate in the moment that it's happening. And so for all of us, that's going to be different, right? So I'll give you an example. The other day, and probably the last couple of months, I've been dealing with some health stuff. Now, I rarely deal with physical pain. Sometimes I injure myself once in a great while. I rarely deal with health scares, but once in a while, I have to pay attention to my physical body. And so instead of getting sort of scared, catatonic, upset, frustrated, pissed off, what I started to do is like, oh, body, I appreciate that you're letting me know that I need to pay attention to something. All right. I appreciate that you're being loud and obvious about it. I appreciate that I have healers and people in the world that I can go to, doctors, and get advice, get tests, get sort of just the knowledge that I need to get me back on track. And so whenever our bodies get off, whenever our finances get off, whenever our relationships get off, it's the universe letting us know that we need to shift, to get back in alignment. And the quickest way to get back into alignment is to begin appreciating the crap that's occurring, right? Because like when I was in the airport, I'm like, oh my God, I so appreciate that I can see what I could choose versus what I'd like to choose. And so what I could have chosen was to go with the group collective, the frustration, the upset, pissed off at being in an airport for 4 hours, planes getting delayed, mechanical issues, families getting rerouted. I can be upset, go with the collective, or I can appreciate that I chose to sit back, watch a cheesy romantic movie, which is what I do when I need to sort of check out and get in alignment with myself. I watch a movie that inspires me or that maybe makes me cry or that allows my emotions to release. And so appreciation really is probably one of the quickest ways to grow and evolve from where you are to where you want to go. But here's the thing. So this is how I look at it is when you appreciate, you're bringing yourself back into being present with what is instead of judging that you're not yet there, instead of comparing yourself to others, instead of being frustrated, right? Instead of pushing or forcing yourself to be somewhere other than you are. Every moment we can shift our perspective, right? We can shift our perspective. And so that's the first one, is appreciation. And we'll kind of dive into it a little bit more. But the second one that I also really value, but is very, how do I want to say it? It's not as talked about, is this idea of anticipating. So you anticipate. So here's a perfect example. When you are driving a car and you're like, wow, I am aware that it's time for me to get a new car. Maybe your car's been breaking down. Maybe you've had it for 5 or 10 years. Maybe your lease is up. Maybe you just want a new car, right? And when you think about a new car, you start to anticipate, what kind of car do you want to drive? What, you know, do you want it new? Do you want it used? What's this going to feel like? What's the stereo going to sound like? And so you begin to anticipate, right? And in that process of anticipation, you start to get excited about what hasn't yet come, but how you're going to feel when you get it. So, anticipating buying a new house, anticipating getting a new job, anticipating finding a relationship that sets you alive. So, anticipation is something that we all do almost always on a daily basis. Some of you, if you're really hungry and maybe you're traveling and you like, I want a really good meal, you anticipate, what do you want to eat? How's it going to taste in your mouth? How's it going to feel? What's the ambiance in the restaurant? Are you going to have a really good glass of wine with it? Like, so we are always every day anticipating. And there were studies that were done, that the highest energy on people who worked Monday through Friday, let's say 9 to 5 job or 9 to 7, the highest energy that those people had was Friday after lunch. Not Friday at 5 or 6 or 7 when they got off at work, but Friday after lunch. Why? Because the energy was high about anticipating the weekend, right? Guess when the energy was the lowest? Sunday, mid to late afternoon, right? Early evening. The energy was lowest because people were anticipating that Monday morning going back to work, right? And so fascinating that they had this very short window of about 48 hours in which their energy was high. But the minute they got off of work on a Friday, it like that anticipation wasn't as high. And so, for all of you out there that are like, I want to be more successful, I want to be farther along than I am, I want to buy a house, I want to have money in the bank, those kinds of thought patterns, what? They create a little bit of a judgment and a clunk in your world. But if you start to practice the art of anticipating, ooh, I wonder what it's going to feel like when I'm in my new home. How many bedrooms is it going to have? Is it going to have a backyard? Am I going to have an ocean view? Am I going to be close to the mountain, right? Like one of my closest friends, she had been dreaming of getting a condo slopeside in Aspen, right? Dreaming of it for years. And all of a sudden, because she kept anticipating, what's it going to feel like when I'm slopeside? When I can, open my door and have a 2-minute walk to the gondola to scan my favorite place in the world. What's that going to feel like? And so anticipating possibilities, anticipating the feeling, anticipating the sensation, anticipating the energy is one of the greatest forms of elevating and evolving yourself into an ideal energy for you to be in alignment with not necessarily what is. Now, I know I'm giving you two contrasting energies because I'm saying appreciation is being in the moment, appreciating what is, not from what other people are choosing, but from what you can choose instead. And then there's anticipation, which is anticipating an energy that hasn't yet happened, without being frustrated, without making yourself wrong, and then letting that anticipation grow your energy in the present moment. And if you start to cultivate a practice in which you are appreciating what is, but not from your external environment, more from internally how you view it, and then you can increase your anticipation, you will begin to cultivate an internal energy that aligns you with a very different possibility for a future, right? And so I think it's very under talked about. I think it's very undervalued. And, we're going into the portal. If anyone's been paying attention, right? Mercury's in retrograde. And look, I'm not an astrologer. I am not. I just kind of look at tons of different things. I'm also not a doctor, right? I also am not in the medical field, but yet I work with people's physical bodies and their spirit bodies all the time. And when people are sick or diseased or in lack, right? It's because something in their spirit is not matching something in their physical. Something in their desire is not matching their present moment. And so the way to get out of that, right? So if you've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, if you've been diagnosed with a thyroid disorder, if you've been diagnosed with something in your bones or your blood or IBS, the quickest way out of it isn't to fight the disease, right? You don't want to create a war with you and your body. You don't want to fight a disease. You want to anticipate wellness, right? You want to anticipate what it's going to feel like. You want to anticipate if you are feeling lack financially, anticipate what it's going to feel like to have wealth. I heard this thing the other day that said if you were to spend an entire year, and I believe they started with $100, and I forget where I heard this, but it was somewhere online. If you start with $100, right? And you go, okay, today I'm going to have $100 that I am going to spend, right? Now, you don't physically spend it, but maybe go shopping online. Maybe like I'm in Nantucket. Maybe I go to the stores in Nantucket and I see, what can I buy for $100? And then you go, okay, what can I buy the next day for $200? And then the next day for $300? And then the next day for $400? And you do this for an entire year. And I believe it's like, I guess you would have gotten to fourth day. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, 100, something like 300. Anyway, it's a big amount of money, right? It's either $365,000. I think that's about right? So can you imagine at the end of the year, what would you in one day spend $365,000 on? Or maybe you want to increase it to $1,000 increments. What would you spend $3.65 million on? Or what would you spend $36 million on? Or what would you spend $365 million on? And then you start to consider, because what that does is it creates this energy in which you're like, oh, there is no lack in my world. Oh, I have to constantly be coming up with how would I spend that money? It doesn't mean you do. It means that you start thinking about it. And so if we take that in terms of health, right? How would you begin to shift the energy, right, for your health? It's not going to be fighting a disease, right? It's not going to be fighting lack. It's going to be anticipating health. Oh, so today, what would I do with my day if my body was fully functioning, fully optimal? My bones were working, my heart was working, my eyes were working. I was, felt like I looked 20 years younger. What would I choose today? And so we start to cultivate this anticipating what it would feel like to be totally healthy, anticipating what it would feel like to be in a loving, kind, connected, abundant, thriving relationship. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur and you start to anticipate what it would be like to have total freedom. And I will tell you that I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs over the last 20 years, and sometimes the ones with the most amount of zeros at the end of their accounts have the most amount of stress because they have a high payroll, because you know, they're feeding a lot of people, because they're not really getting a physical or mental or energetic break during their day or during their week. Sometimes those people can be the most stressed out. And so, as an entrepreneur, you might say, I want the money, I want the money, I want the money. But you're not really, so you might just focus on the money. You get to the money piece and you realize you're stressed out and have no time for yourself and really no freedom, which is why you wanted to be an entrepreneur in the first place. And so we think we want what we want until we get what we want and we realize we want something different. Have any of you ever been there? You're like, I want this, right? Want the relationship, want whatever it was. I was having dinner the other night and this sweet, amazing, wise woman, right, who's lived a lot of years, she's like, you want to be happy? Don't get a man, get a dog, right? And so the joke is, or the humor in it is, sometimes we think we know what we want until we get what we want and we realize we want something different. And so the art of anticipating is to give you this sensation of what it feels like. And the best example I know how is, think about right now. If you were to trade your car in, or maybe you don't have a car and you've always wanted a car, what kind of car would you get? Right? What kind of car would you get? How many miles would it have? What would it feel like to sit in that car, drive down your favorite road with the stereo blasting your favorite song? Maybe you have, your favorite person in the passenger seat. Maybe you're going on a road trip. Maybe you're going to go somewhere you've never been before, maybe the Grand Canyon. Like, you anticipate, right? Seeing new sights, experiencing new energies, feeling what it feels like. And you're like, oh, I'm going to listen to this song. It's going to feel like this in the cells of my body, right? And you start to what? Get excited. Well, that excitement literally changes the biochemistry of your whole physical body. But guess what? It also changes the chemistry in your spirit. It also changes your neurotransmitters. It also connects your left brain, right brain, right? I've been doing a lot of work with the parasympathetic nervous system, and I teach these live classes in Aspen, and I'm watching people's brains change. They're starting to get happier. They're starting to look younger, right? Like, my lighting today isn't the greatest, so I'm looking a little gray. I've been working a lot, and yet I love what I do. So I feel very blessed. But the point is, for each of you, if you're not where you want to be, trying to force the timeline, trying to push your way to the top, trying to complain or compare that you're not that yet there, trying to rush the process, is never going to create more energy for you long term, right? So the point of this is, when you value every day, the most important thing that you can do every day to create health, to create wealth, to create love, to create joy, to create happiness, to create freedom, to create peace of mind, is to worry the most, or pay attention the most, to how you feel in the moment. If you don't like how you feel, it's not about forcing or pushing, right? When I used to have call them bad hair days, right? I used to be a hairdresser, believe it or not, and we called bad hair days, right? So when I would have my emotionally bad hair days, I would go, okay, I'm going to give myself a 24-hour pity party. which means I have 24 hours to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to give myself a 24-hour pissed off party, right? I'm going to give myself permission for 24 hours I can be pissed off. What that does is it takes the pressure off. Too many of us have way too many pressures. Pressure to be perfect in relationship, pressure to be perfect as a parent, pressure to, be in a certain place at a certain time in your life. Like if you hit 50, you think you should be here. If you hit 40, you think you should be here. If you hit 30, but we're walking around putting all this pressure on ourselves and then waking up realizing we've got stress, we have anxiety, we're frustrated, we're not happy. And so for all of you out there listening, I want you to take a moment and close your eyes and think about the next car that you would want to drive. Think about, just getting that car, right? Maybe it's paid off. You don't know how, right? But it's paid off. And you get in that car, you smell that smell, you put your hands on the steering wheel, you got the stereo that you want, it's got the tires that you want, it got the color that you want. I want you to imagine then driving, right? Going to pick up a friend or pick up your significant other, right? And get in the car with them. And what are the kinds of conversations you're having? How does it feel to drive that car, right? And when you start to anticipate, so you want to anticipate things in your life that make you feel good, but here's what's happening to most people on the planet. They're anticipating worst case scenario. They're anticipating getting sick. They're anticipating bad things happening to them. And guess what's happening to their energy? It's making them sick, right? And so for all of you out there, I want to invite you one day at a time, one moment at a time, instead of being so consumed that you're not yet where you want to be, what if you start to take some time to anticipate what it would feel like to be exactly where you want to be, the home you want to have, the place in the world you want to live, the relationship you want to have. Be specific, right? But you want to be specific when you're feeling good. You don't want to be specific when you're feeling bad. There's a lot more here, but I'll let you sit there for a moment. We're going to take a little bit of a commercial break, so stay tuned and we'll be back with more about appreciation and anticipation.
Home Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to CatherineMcIntosh.com. CatherineMcIntosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, my magical friends. So we are back from break and we are talking about two topics, appreciation and anticipation. And so here's the deal. When you stop sort of, I don't know, just complaining, going through the motions, feeling like nothing in your life is going right, right? When you stop doing that, you start to realize there's a whole new way of being. And, more often than not, what we get concerned about as we get older, as we get wiser, is we get concerned about time freedom, and health, right? More so than money. And some people might get more concerned about money. It just depends on where you are. But the point is that when you begin to really value, right, how you feel. So I'll give you an example. The other day, right, I've been playing softball, and I sort of pulled my quad/hip flexor, right? And I was like, oh God, that's really intense. And so I started to be like, okay, I appreciate that I was brave enough to volunteer to play softball, right? I appreciate that my legs still work. I appreciate that my muscles are letting me know that I did not stretch, right? I appreciate that I've been given the chance to be competitive. I appreciate, right? And so the minute something that is occurring in your life isn't fun for you, see what happens in your world if you start to appreciate, right? So maybe your mom is on your case. Maybe your spouse or your husband is on your case. And you're like, wow, I appreciate that they care so much. Might not come in the form that you want, but what it does is it starts to increase your internal energy. In a world where we are concerned about quick fixes, where we want to just solve a problem, right? Where we focus on problems, right? The quickest way to shift that is to recognize, right? One of the people that I've worked with in the world, they say, what if there's nothing wrong with you? What if there's no problem to solve? And what if there's nothing to fix? Right? What if there's nothing wrong with you? What if there's no problem to solve? And what if there's nothing to fix? And so when you include you in the mix, what if you are not a problem to solve? What if you do not have to fix anything about you, right? And what if there's nothing wrong with you? You start to see all that is good in your world. And so instead of focusing on what you don't have, where you aren't yet, what isn't occurring, what if you start to focus on what is? And so when I was sort of in the middle of my practice, I raised my prices quite high, and it made a lot of people stop doing sessions with me. And I remember going, oh, this doesn't really feel good. I like being busy. I like when I do sessions, right? And so might be having a bad hair day. So in that process, right, I started to go, oh, it's nice to have some time freedom. It's nice to have space in my day to spend with my son. It's nice to be able to go for a hike in the middle of the day. It's nice to get out my skis in winter and take, 2 hours on the mountain, right? And so I started to appreciate what the shift in my life had created and the shift in my business had created. It created more time freedom. And then I started to look at my payroll and my bank account and my books. And I went, wow, I'm working way less than I used to, and I'm making the same amount of money. Because what I was focused on is I hadn't increased my income, right? But guess what? I increased my time freedom and still had the same income. And so when we start to take a step back in our lives, no matter what's going on, because the planet is freaking crazy, right? We've opened the portal, Lionsgate. Lionsgate is really all about a whole lot of shifting in your life. It's about abundance. It's the sign of infinity. It's 8-8, right? And it's 224, which 2024 is also a number 8. So 888, it's a lion's portal, and the infinity symbol, which is abundance, right? Which is what? Not worrying about time, not pushing, not pressuring, not trying to focus on what isn't working, but instead opening the doors to what is working. And when you start focusing on what is working, guess what happens? You get more of what's working. When you start focusing on what isn't working, you get more of what isn't working. And so I deal with people from all walks of life, from all over the world, that fascinate me. Every day I wake up, I'm like, wow, I feel really blessed, right? But I will tell you, I didn't used to feel that way, right? I'd wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I love so many clients to navigate. Oh my God, I'm not making the money I want to be making. Oh my God, I'm not traveling as much as I'd like. And then I'd travel and I'd be like, oh my God, right? And I could always find something to complain about. And so the point is that each of you, wherever you are in the world, we always have something that we can complain about, we can be frustrated about, we can be upset about, or we can be grateful for what is. We can appreciate what is good. We can appreciate like the contrast, right? Because when you have contrast, and Abraham Hicks talks about this, when you have contrast and you're experiencing what you don't want, you're simultaneously planting seeds for what you do want. And when we're so focused on the results, right, we're not appreciating the process of evolving and growing. And so when you plant a seed in the ground, let's say you're planting a bunch of rose bushes or a bunch of peonies, right? When you're planting those seeds, you're not like, it better grow tomorrow. If it doesn't show up tomorrow, I'm not going to believe in the seed. No, and yet every day in our lives, we do this to ourselves. We plant a seed. We want to get healthy again. We want to have more financial freedom. Maybe we want more time freedom. Maybe we want more freedom to travel. Maybe we want to take kids around the world. Maybe we want to move, right? We're planting these seeds of freedom that we desire. And if it doesn't show up in our timeline, we're like, it didn't work. And I deal with people's health processes all the time. And I will tell you, the people that shift their health, right? So often it starts from the inside before the results manifest, before the physical body transforms completely into a healthy, vibrant body again, right? But what they start paying attention to is, I feel better, I look younger, I have more energy, I might not yet have gotten rid of my dis-ease, but everything in my life is working, right? So these two fundamental energetic components to grow anything and everything in your life, including you, including your relationships, including your children, right, is to start to cultivate a practice. And I do this every day. I write in my journal every day, an appreciation. right? Appreciation for the people in my life, appreciation for where my business is at, appreciation for my physical body is at, appreciation for my son is at, appreciation for my son's dad, right? We've been separated going on almost 10 years. And in the last year, we finally are in a really good place, right? And he's a good human, right? We were together for a decade. And so there's no reason to hate on him or to be frustrated with him because everybody does better when we get along. Everybody does better when we get along. And so if you're looking to shift your life, shift your body, shift your finances, shift your health, shift your energy, shift everything and anything in your life, start to appreciate what is. What is in your world and what is working and what is good. And see what happens from there. Right? Appreciation. And then anticipation. Anticipate what it would feel like to travel around the world. I like to look on Zillow, right? I live in Aspen and homes are are not cheap, let's just put it that way, right? And so I look at it and people come to Aspen and they complain about the prices, they complain. And I was at dinner the other night and someone ordered a piece of fish and they went, oh my God. I said, how was the fish? He goes, it better have been good. It was $160 piece of fish. And I'm like, awesome. He goes, yeah, actually it was delicious and totally worth it. He goes, everyone wants to complain about prices, but I'm just going to be grateful that I can afford to have that. And so I like to look at homes or look at furniture or look at decorating. And I go, oh, I'm going to anticipate what it feels like when I can afford this house. I'm going to anticipate what it feels like when I can have this piece of furniture or this car. And so for all of you out there that feel like you don't yet have enough, you do. We all do. And when you start to anticipate the feeling of having something, rather than regretting that it's not yet here, it will change your world. Simple as that. Simple as that. So my friends, wherever you are in the world, I know you have something that you can appreciate. And wherever you are in the world, if you want more, anticipate. Get out your journal. What would it feel like to have a relationship with your dreams, right? Where are you living? What does it feel like? What are the kinds of conversations you're having? Where are you going to dinner? What adventures are you going on? Because we all complain that we want something, and then when we get it, we go, oh, I didn't want it. So anticipating is the best way to sort of align your energy so that when you get in alignment, guess what? You start attracting what you want. That goes for health, that goes for business, that goes for people, that goes for money, that goes for life situations, right? Because it could always be worse and it could always be better. And do you want to err on the side of letting in the good, or do you want to err on the side of anticipating the bad? I don't know about you, but it's a lot easier when we start anticipating all the good. Right? So if you anticipate in your relationships, you're going to fight, or there's going to be disconnect, or there's going to be disgruntledness, guess what you're going to get? If you go, I'm going to start anticipating things are going to work out, that these conversations that we're having are leading us to a greater place, right? You start to open the door to something different. So my magical friends, wherever you are in the world, I'm always grateful to have you join me live, right? If this conversation is something that you resonate with, if you liked the message, please feel free to share it. Please feel free to comment. Please feel free to write us in. You can always visit my website, katherinemcintosh.com. Tons of videos, tons of free content, a couple of free downloads for your nervous system. And one day at a time, because this crazy thing called life that we're all on, living in a physical body, nobody told us how to do it. And so we might as well have fun along the way and do what feels good, right? Not just feels good in the moment, but feels good long term. One day at a time, one moment at a time, one step at a time. And guess what? Only you know what's best for you. So if you aren't feeling good, it's probably because you have some energies in your world where you're putting pressure on yourself. You wish you were somewhere different. You're maybe have some toxic people in your life. So take inventory of your entire world and look and see, where do you need to change, not who needs to change, right? Starts from within, not from without. So one day at a time, one moment at a time, sometimes 1 minute at a time. Wishing you all the magic of every day. Thank you for joining, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.